Okay, you have the agenda before you. Have a motion that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Made and seconded, we approve the agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. Any public comments on any of the agenda items? Anybody in the public have any comments on any agenda item? No comments. We'll move to the minutes of the prior meeting, July the 13th. You have a copy of them. Have a motion we adopt and present.
So moved.
Second.
Calvin made the motion. Melton second. Any comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Committee reports, Park and Recreation, Mr. Travis.
Okay. Parks and Tourism Recreation Committee, we met at 5:30 this evening to discuss the American Rescue Act Fund that Lincoln Parish Park is eligible to receive a grant, and we'll have to meet some criteria, but it looks like we will be able to do that. The total amount of the grant available is $750,000. And we, like I said, we're one of 8 that in the entire state that is eligible for this. And during the meeting, we took action and authorized Mr. Postel and Mr. Durrett to sign off on any paperwork that needs to be done to get this process in motion. We have until September the 5th to make the application, and the initial application, at least, and it's not too difficult of that particular one to get filled out, so we should be fine on that there. And also, they added myself in on when grants are approved and we have decisions made, prioritized, and things like that. We will move forward with that with some improvements that we've talked about and discussed. Some water systems that need a good bit of work. Sewer plant needs updated. Those are just a couple of things we talked about. And what I'd like to do now is ask Mr. Postel if he has anything else he'd like to add to this report.
No, thank you.
Okay, that's the report from Park, Recreation, and Tourism.
Motion to approve.
Motion to accept and approve the recommendation by Mr. Russell.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Russell made it.
I'll second it.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, Personnel and Benefits Committee.
Personnel Benefits Committee met at 6 p.m. tonight. 2 items of business on the agenda. First item of business was to discuss the appointment to the Sparta Commission. Mr. Durrett reported that Mr. Milton has been appointed by the governor to serve out the remainder of his term on the Sparta Commission. However, that term ends in October, and it's time for us to make a recommendation for the term beginning in the end of October. The committee recommends that the names of Ms. Straughter, Mr. Melton, and Mr. Hunt be submitted to the governor's office for consideration, with Ms. Straughter being the candidate recommended by the jury. Second item of business was to approve job description and class changes. Presentation was made by Ms. Latanya Lacey from the Human Resources Payroll Department. Going through the changes in the job descriptions and commensurate class changes through all police jury departments, and the budget amounts resulting in those changes. After some discussion, those recommendation was made to approve those changes, and that concluded the business of the Personnel Benefits Committee. I recommend, move that we approve it. I can't actually do it again.
We need somebody to We need a motion to accept and approve the recommendation for personnel.
I move that the report would be,
Accepted and approved. Accepted and approved.
accepted and approved.
I second the motion.
Ms. Mayfield made the motion, Mr. Melton second. Any discussion or questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. Next item on the agenda is the Property Assessment Board of Review for 2021. And I need a motion to convene the Property Board of Review.
So moved.
Who was opposed? Second.
Second.
Ms. Hunter?
Ms. Hunter?
Yes.
All in favor say aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Recommended that a public hearing be scheduled for September the 14th, 2021 at 7 o'clock for the purpose of board review to consider the written or oral complaints of persons desiring to be heard who have filed timely reports as required by state law relative to the assessment of real and personal property in Lincoln Parish, Louisiana for the year 2021. With that, I need a motion to recess the board review and reconvene the police jury meeting.
So moved.
Second. Ms. Saunders, second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Adopt resolution redesignating polling place location.
Yes, sir. The right section here. Many of you were on the police jury before my time here when we had to make some adjustments, some precinct adjustments based on the lines that the state required us to move. The consolidation, that's right, there's consolidation of some precincts. A companion piece should have been passed at that time that established the polling places for those precincts. And the state does require us to do that. And so we need to go ahead and get that done so we can send it to the Secretary of State's office. The list of those are in your packet, item number 6. There are no changes here. This simply reflects the polling locations for the new precinct lines.
It's the polling places we're using already.
That's right. These are the ones we're currently using.
I have a motion, we approve those. Mr. Russell?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt a resolution redesignating polling place locations as indicated on the printed notification.
Second.
Second by Mr. Milton. Any discussion or questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Adopt resolution authorizing the President to enter into a contract with Strategic Demographics for services pertaining to reabortion.
As you know, we're entering into, this is a reapportionment year, and the census actually the numbers will be released on Thursday of this week. Mr. Durrett, Mr. Melton, Mr. Hunt, and myself have been in contact with 3 different individuals that conduct redistricting type work. One of them, after my initial outreach, never reached back out to us with any sort of proposal. We interviewed the other 2 individuals that perform this type of work in the state, had good interviews with both of them. They both gave us proposals. I think that both of them were qualified to do the work. The proposal you see before you from Strategic Demographics and Mr. Bill Blair, we've worked with Mr. Blair previously. He's the one that helped us with our precinct consolidation that we mentioned just a minute ago. In addition, Mr. Blair's price was considerably lower than the other proposal that we received. His quote, and you'll see it in the packet there, was for $16,000 with a $3,000 discount if we work alongside the school board in this effort, which they have agreed to do. As a matter of fact, they've already passed their resolution to work with him this year. Our other quote was for $25,000 with a $1,000 discount for the school board. So basically it was $24,000 versus $13,000. So our recommendation will be that we contract with Strategic Demographics and Bill Blair for redistricting services.
I make a motion, we adopt a resolution to authorize the president to enter into contract with Strategic Demographics LLC for services pertaining to reappointment.
Motion by Mr. Crowder, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Pullen, seconds. Any discussion, question? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Authorize the advertisement for bid for the 2021 capital improvement plan asphalt concrete overlay.
So it's time to advertise for bids for our CIP program for 2021. And just for your information, the roads that are included in that program are Moody Road, Baxter Road, and the parking lot at the detention center. Those will be what's included in this bid. So we just need your permission to authorize, your authorization to advertise for those bids.
So moved. Second.
Pullen, seconds. Mr. Pullen makes the motion, Hunt seconds. Any discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Approve recommendations for broadband commission appointment.
You have a list on item 9 in your packet. These are individuals that we have been in contact with to serve on our Lincoln Parish Broadband Commission from the various entities that you set forth in the resolution established in this commission. You can read down through there. If you recall, there were several organizations where we indicated they could either be the executive officer of that organization or a designee. For example, the university presidents or a designee. There are two on here that are noted with asterisks. One being from Grambling State. I've not heard back from President Gallo yet whether or not he was going to serve or if he's going to appoint a designee. And also, we have not been able, through several attempts, to contact anyone or have not gotten a name back from Clayton Electric. But otherwise, we've talked personally to all these individuals to serve on this broadband commission. I think it's a very solid group. We're excited to see what kind of work they're going to be able to do. And we actually sat in on a call today from Senator Cassidy's office that touched, it was an infrastructure call, but it touched a little bit on broadband. And I have a feeling we're about to see a lot of action coming in the very near future in regards to broadband expansion in rural areas. So we need to get this commission stood up and moving in the right direction.
For your motion to approve the broadband committee?
I make a motion that we approve the list of applicants for the broadband commission.
Bob makes the motion, I have a second.
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 Discussion.
Hunter?
Discussion.
Yes, sir.
For your information, Claiborne Electric, as I understand it, is working to create a rural broadband operation and charge for it.
And that's one of the reasons that we want them at the table,
Yeah.
is so that we are all these entities are moving in the same direction and not moving against one another.
Good deal. Good.
Mr. Crowder?
So when we approve these people and get started on this, what is the next step? What would take place now?
I would tell you the gentleman's name if I could pronounce it, but the governor has appointed basically a state-level director for broadband initiatives. We're going to get him to come up here for the initial meeting of this group and kind of task them with what they need to be doing. And I want to make sure everyone understands, we don't run this commission. Okay? You simply appoint the commission. They're going to run themselves. They're going to set up how they're going to operate and things of that nature. But I think connecting them with the folks at the state level that are going to kind of give them some guidance will be the first step.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, and let the record show that I abstain.
Yes.
My son is one of on each, that's what I understand. Okay, request for assistance, town people.
Item 10 here, you can see that the town of Dubach asked for assistance in clearing a ditch for some drainage issues. Mr. Dawson, I'm not sure if that has been done yet or not. No, we're working on a road program right now, but it's going to go on the list, and as soon as we have some guys freed up, we'll get out there and take care of that for
You need a motion.
you. Please.
Motion to approve the request for town of Dubach.
I second.
Well, I didn't get the motion first. So, okay, TJ makes the motion. Piper makes the motion, second by Ms. White. Did you say you second?
Yeah.
Any discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Archer Range report, Mr. Driver. No, wait, excuse me. I'm sorry. Yeah, I skipped along. Budget report.
Okay.
Sorry.
Maybe we should do it, just over the meeting, set in your place, a budget to actual report.
Could you move the mic up a little closer because we're spread out tonight.
Okay. Okay, just before we convened, I set before you a budget to actual report that is through the month of July. I did want to point out a few line items in the report. I wanted to go into a little bit more detail than I usually do because I consider this to be sort of the mid-year review. We're not exactly at the midpoint of the year, but I feel like the accounting records have had that extra month for everything to be recorded. So it's a good time to kind of ask any questions if anything looks out of line to you. So I'm going to point out a few areas that look out of line to me, just to keep everybody aware. On the first couple of pages are the general fund. On page 2, I wanted to draw your attention to line 35, maintenance of equipment. We're almost out of our budgeted amount for maintenance of equipment. In that actual number, there's $41,500 of air conditioning repairs. That's pretty common for all of our buildings, considering the age of our air conditioning and cooling systems. But I just wanted to point that out. That could trigger a budget amendment soon. And then I've mentioned to you in a previous meeting on line 37, we have it listed as miscellaneous expense, but the amount that is driving that number up so high is the psych evaluations that are ordered by the court system that we're mandated to pay. So as of today, $23,800 has been spent on those psych evaluations.
Oh, what? I didn't understand.
Psychiatric evaluations that are ordered by the judge. So even though those couple of lines are looking out of line, there are other lines that are under budget, so it doesn't trigger a budget amendment to be necessary. As of today, the surplus in the general fund is $552,431, but we are on track for pretty much to break even for 2021. On page 3, you have the special road fund. This is the fund that we just set aside to account for our state funding for population and miles. We did have some significant repairs to one of our trucks in that fund on line 71. And we did buy a truck this year, as you might recall in earlier meetings. We spent $32,000 for a vehicle in line 74. Okay, on page 4, road construction and road maintenance funds.
Can I ask a question
Yes,
about
sir.
that?
Absolutely.
So I thought we were leasing vehicles.
We had some already budgeted to purchase outright, but the majority will fall under our enterprise, our new fleet lease. We had about 3, I think, already slated to be purchased before we entered into the lease agreement. So road construction and road maintenance, I didn't really have any budget variances or close to budget variances. Hot mix, we've pretty much bought, I think, what we're going to buy on line 108 towards the bottom of page 4. And I'll follow up with Dawson and make sure that we're pretty much done spending in that line because it's getting pretty close.
So that's not the hot mix overlay.
No, sir. On page 5 is the library fund. A couple of interesting things I wanted to point out there. On line 122, their miscellaneous revenue. Marcy notified me that they received $47,000 in rescue plan funding as a pass through the state library system. So that's not part of our rescue plan funding. So that's great that they received that. There were some refunds made on the event center on line 119. But that seems to be fully offset by the fines collected on line 118. I'll mention again, I think I said this last month, but I can really see the impact of the staff cuts that the library made on line 124. They're running about 5% under budget on their payroll and benefits costs as a result of those staff cuts. On page 6, the solid waste disposal fund. As I've reported to you every month, sales taxes are booming right now. You guys are aware of that. I know you see that and you talk to our other partner agencies and are aware of that. So of course the sales tax revenue is ahead of schedule, which also makes lines 168 our distributions to our partner agencies, and then 169 our distribution internally to our solid waste collection fund. Those appear to be over budget. Any questions about those? Okay. Page 7, solid waste collection fund. Line 191, contract labor. That's just an uphill battle that we have to deal with every year. We have a lot of contract labor that we use in that department. It's very hard to project how much we're going to need. I do feel like it's okay because line 197, our maintenance of equipment, we haven't had to use that line very much. So those two kind of offset each other. We do have some acquisition of equipment, line 199. We bought the 8-yard containers just as we planned. That was in the original budget. So nothing to point out that's a problem on that page. Page 8 is the parish park. Just to draw your eye again, you're already aware on line 219 we did receive another allocation of surface water sales to Naval and Gusman. It was just over $100,000. So that was great. The improvements in development expense on line 235. A lot of that was to rip up the old RV spots. I know you guys are involved and aware of that ongoing project.
What about the hotel motel tax?
It looks like we're under, and I need to probably reach out to them and make sure that I have recorded all of the months and that they've submitted all the months. I think I need to kind of reach out to them about that one.
Question with regard to that tax. Are we expecting $80,000 for the entire year?
That's what the budget has, yes, sir.
But do we
James.
expect that?
Well, James might have a thought on that. He just,
If I can speak to that.
Yeah.
There was some communication issues with Chris, and it's a flat 50 is what we agreed to. So that's an inaccurate figure.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you, James. We'll pick that up in the form of a budget amendment, probably at the October meeting. Okay, on page 9, there's two funds there, Courthouse Capital Fund and the Bridge Replacement Fund. On the Courthouse Capital Fund, I added in what I anticipate our FEMA reimbursement for the damages to the Expo Center from Hurricane Laura to be on line 242. That's the $61,000. I don't like to actually budget that money because it can take up to 2 or 3 years to actually get it checked. So I don't like to budget that money, but I'm just showing it to you here so you can kind of get an idea of the fund balance in that fund. We're a little bit over budget on the expenditures that we've had this year. A lot of those were COVID related that we were not anticipating. The ending fund balance in the Courthouse Capital Fund as of July 31st is $1,063,557. In the Bridge Replacement Fund, which largely captures the costs of our capital improvement program that you guys mentioned earlier, that's pretty much the entirety of the engineering services on line 254. And then on line 255, those are the eaves, gaskin, bridge expenses, and we bought some culverts and some boxcars.
So the 2 bridges we have under construction, is that?
Yes, sir, those expenses will show up there. And you see that we have on line 255, 1.5 million budgeted for those. Page 10, sewer fund. Just one little interesting thing to point out, on line 262, we did get an insurance reimbursement for our claim that we made with State Farm. I think there was a damaged vehicle. So we did get a check just last week for $15,643 back into the sewer fund. The only line that is over budget significantly is 267, professional services, and that was for the repairs of the Beacon Light lift station that pushed that over budget. Page 11 is the health unit fund and the hospital proceeds fund. I'll be glad to answer any questions, but there's not a lot of activity in those funds. Usually the transactions are reported at year end, so I don't have anything to point out to you. And then the last page is the Complex 2 fund. So just to give you an idea of how our rent income is tracking on that building versus expenses. We haven't had a lot of expense, and the rents are pretty much tracking with our expectation. That's all I wanted to point out as far as a budget to actual report to you. I like to always share with you the sales taxes deposited in July, collected in June, were $727,000 and change, compared to the same month last year, which was $652,000 and change. Again, sales tax revenue is up for the 1 month, 12% over the 1 month for the prior year.
Any questions? No questions, no comments, okay. Thank you. Okay, now to the Mr. Scriber, Archery Range report.
Okay. On our meeting in April, I gave us 2 important dates that we need to kind of be mindful of, target dates that was really important to this project. It was May the 14th and September the 1st. May the 14th was our target date to have enough funds in hand to actually do this project with community donations, personal donations, and things like that. That matured like we was hoping that it would, and so we continued on with the project, and with still a target date of September the 1st. We will meet that date. On August the 21st, we have a group of people going to be out there. We're going to cut all the lanes where the targets will be, clean up what needs to be cleaned up, things of that nature. On August the 28th, the next week, we will actually set the targets and the pins where you shoot from, along with some signage and things like that. Our sign is in the process right now being made to have all of our sponsors on there. Just an incredible professional sign that Chris Hart is doing for us. The fence is 100% complete. So we're glad of that. The parish did a very, very professional job on that. Good to work with. They just did great. So this thing is about to become a reality. It's going to happen. So we're, feel obviously very excited about it. Targets are in hand. Just like I said, getting our work days now scheduled to complete this project. So we're right on track with where I was hoping that we would be. A couple things, and what I didn't really work with the parish that much. I had quite a few conversations with Joe Brown. He's been great to visit with, talk about, and Mr. James Ransor, that been awesome to work with, and excited about the whole deal, and willing to help any way that he can. So I want to just publicly say how much I appreciate those people, and without them, it couldn't happen. So it's here, and it's going to be a reality.
Great.
Any questions?
Any questions? Sounds exciting.
It is.
You gonna have a big ribbon cutting or something?
I'm not real good at that sort of thing as far as scheduling, but if.
Mr. Postel will be good.
Yeah, I think it's
Get all set
possible.
up.
If we're gonna have something, we do need to sit down and visit, when would be a good time. It has not got to be necessarily, obviously, the day that we open it up or something, but if we want to discuss that, I think it would be great to get our sponsors out there and, so they can view this thing, see where money was spent. So I think it'd be great if we could get together and set a date on that.
When it's cooler outside.
I think that would be awesome, maybe sometime maybe in October, Doug.
That'd be great. We'll work with you on that. That'd be perfect.
You wanna give a little history about who the property came from when it was donated to the park?
I'd like to do that. When the way this whole thing started, I won't get too talkative here, but one of the first meetings I even attended as a police jury member was, we were out at the Chamber of Commerce talking, actually, with Mr. Ramsey was out there, and Matt was out there, I was there. I don't know how many other police jury members were out there, and he was talking about the park and exciting, and, he always trying to create new ideas. And he said, there's a piece of property right here that was donated to the park, so I really would like to do something with this piece of property if we could. It's not being utilized too much. So the wheels kind of started turning for some of us, and we approached Mr. Ramsey about it and said, what about this piece of property here? And we thought at the time this piece of property was donated to the park about 10 years ago. But then Mr. Garrett and I went out there, and he said, I think it's been longer than that.
Yeah, thanks.
And so I dug around, and we knew the Nix family was involved in donating the property. So I had met Gary Nix in years past, didn't really know him, but I knew some people that knew him quite well. And I said, I need to get Mr. Nix's number. I want to call and ask him a few questions about it. So I finally got in touch with Gary Nix, who lives here locally. And he said, well, yeah, the story on that is that the parish had actually bought some property from what was a company that was called Sturgis Nix. Had a lumber company, timber company type of thing. And they had the holdings, all over the place. And they had right there where the pond is, that corporation, Sturgis Nix, had sold park, like 20 acres, 23 acres maybe, something like that. Right there where the pond is and that area there. Well, then they realized they had this 10 acres here that was basically now landlocked. And so they just said, we're going to give this to the park. And that's actually been at least 15 years ago. Now, he couldn't come up with an exact date on the thing. But I've been in touch with Sturgis Nix, and their name's going to be on that sign out there as well, as an appreciation of what they did. Once again, me and Mr. Deere was talking about it, and I've told so many people brainstorming. I know I do the talking and things like that, but this has been a community effort, people. I'm telling you, it has been a community effort. And that's why it's going to be so successful, because there's a lot of people that have been involved in this thing that helped this become a reality. And we thought it was absolutely what we need to do to kind of recognize that family right there that donated this property for this.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. What we do?
All right. We'll start with Mr. Kerry Outley, Solid Waste Department.
Pretty much just staying busy with this usual routine type of things. There's an update on I told you last month we'll be starting our refurbishment of the dumpsters. We're a little behind on that because of the manpower challenge, but hopefully that gets better in the near future.
Any questions?
Are there a few areas where you have dumpsters that people are violating the guidelines and dropping stuff that maybe we could put some sort of camera system up so that we could identify who's
We're
doing
actually working
that?
on a special project that I can't reveal to the public, but we're going to have a special project to that regard right now, Mr. Russell.
Good.
You and I can talk about it
We
later.
need to punish those who are violating the guidelines, and are making our people work twice as hard.
And the sheriff and I had a conversation about this last week, and you're going to be seeing some consolidated press releases coming out to that regard as well.
Thank y'all.
Mr. Jerry Doss, Highway Department.
The traffic crew is currently in the Pea Ridge Downville area. Next couple of weeks, we should be finishing up the first round of cutting the grass for the parish. This past month, we replaced a cross drain for the town of Dubop. Also, we replaced a bridge with a tank car on the Young Road. And we're in the process of now setting the base up on the roads that we recycled and putting the prime oil down. And we should finish that up probably at the end of this week, beginning of next week. And we'll start our resealing program after that. Any questions?
Mr. Mustel, is there anything on their schedule about redrawing those lines, whatever you call them, passing lines?
We typically only have lines on our hot mix overlay roads. So the ones that our highway department works on, our chip seal roads, we don't have lines on them.
Like Gar Road, which is,
Right.
what would that fall into?
No, ma'am.
Yes.
Does it have current lines on it? So we have some existing ones that have lines on it?
Part of Gar Road is hot mix overlay.
Oh, okay.
But there's no plan in the future to redo those. They're very vague and people have been asking.
We can have that conversation. I've had another juror ask me about that as well, so we can have that conversation. Yes, if it's a hot mix overlay road, yes, we can do that. Okay.
Question. Did we patch that spot on Chandler Road just north of the highway, of the interstate, or did the state do that?
The state has so much distance
Right.
from the
Right.
bridge, and if it's within that yellow line on that bridge, that's all the state money,
Okay,
and they did do it.
yeah. And they did a good job,
Yeah.
but it took them a long time to do it.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
Mr. Ramser?
It's hot. And under a heat advisory, so there's not a whole lot of activity at the park. The campground's pretty full, still getting that, and swimmers. And just for the beach is going to be open 7 days a week for another till I believe the 22nd. And then the 23rd will go to weekends only. And our last day will be Labor Day for the beach, and that's 10 to 6.
Very good. Ms. Manning with the Expo?
We've got a lot of, we've been busy. We've got the completion of the construction from the hurricanes done. And so, we have a lot of events through September and October and the rest of the August. I'm about completely booked from February till the middle of June for 2022. So that is a blessing. And everything's still going great. The only sadness that I've had this week is that we lost one of our Expo commissioners, Mr. Greg McCarter. So I'd like to ask y'all to remember y'all's prayers.
Thank you. Kip Franklin, Homeland Security.
We've actually got, on Angela's buildings, we had damage during the winter storm as well, and that's pretty well being repaired, if I'm not mistaken. So, last year during the coronavirus, the height of the 2020 part of the coronavirus, we worked with Jerry Lynn and my office has, and the police jury, and we've looked at lots of different PPE and other items that we needed to beef up the courthouse because of protection and all for people, customers, and employees. But we also had discussions last year during the height of the coronavirus with our local coroner's office about the possibility of would a portable morgue be possible to purchase. And last year when we looked into this, there were none available whatsoever. We could not locate a unit anywhere. And so we were also looking at reimbursement for that through the CARES Act, which we passed up those windows of opportunity with that. I won't go into that too much detail, but we did a renewed declaration. Mr. Durrett signed it on July the 28th. We had terminated the one from over a year ago, and we kind of jumped the gun on that. So we did a revised declaration that included this Delta variant and all. And anyway, Jerry Lynn and I just last week were able to check back into the possibility of a portable morgue. We found a company that had 2 units that could be one. If we purchased one, it would be shipped, and we actually received and unpacked it today. It cost about $8,200, and we will be able to still try to get reimbursement for that through the FEMA, through the Public Assistance Program. And so this is something that may even get as much as 100% reimbursement for that, and all the other items that we've ordered over the last year. So we worked with the coroner's office on this, and we will be entering into a cooperative endeavor agreement with them where they've agreed that they will be responsible for maintenance of the unit and all. And so we got it in today and got it unloaded inside the building. So
Where will it be located?
it's Dr. Blue owns the building that used to be the old wheat barn on the corner of Alabama and Monroe. It's the sign on the front says Better Living Market, but it's not really better living if you're in there in the morgue. So that's where it's going to be. That's where his main office is. Of course, he also works with Miss Straughter and them down here at the Lincoln Community Health Center. And so that's where it'll be located there. Mass casualty incident of any sort in another parish, and we needed that unit, we could mobilize it and move it over there if we had to. Otherwise, it will stay in place. So that's what we got on that.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Explain to them the need for a portable morgue.
My bad. Thank you. I had a note on here and I passed it up. So there's only one morgue in Lincoln Parish, and that's at the hospital. Been there ever since it was constructed, and there's only 2 what we call morgue trays in that hospital, and they're pretty wide trays. And last year, if I understood right, at one point during the height of the coronavirus, there were actually multiple bodies in each tray. So they were down, and we worked with Dr. Ballou and his chief deputy, Hazel Woods, on this. Hazel said that just recently, many of you know, we lost 3, I think, teenagers in a motor vehicle accident on Highway 818. She said they, could have used this unit for that purpose there. So there is a need for it. We saw the morgue at the hospital was being used regular last year with deaths in the hospital itself and all. So there is a need for this, and so that's where we're at. So that's just one of our multiple items that we worked on. We also got in some temperature thermometers, thank you, that are wall-mounted units that we are putting in the courthouse and other facilities to where people can go up there and put their head about 4 inches or so away from it and take their own temperature. If their temperature is over 99.1, I believe, it'll sound an audible alarm, which will let our deputies at security and all folks know up front that this person does not need to be allowed in the building. So we're trying to do stuff like that just to beef up our security and beef up our protection for our citizens and our employees in the courthouse. And today they started a jury trial, first jury trial that's been in place since before COVID started last year. So we had a lot of protection for them, masks and stuff, and they started that jury selection today. Had a lot of people coming in the courthouse. One other thing real quickly is Hurricane Laura. Mr. Durrett received a letter on our hazard mitigation grant. The official letter came from the state for $769,600 plus. That's federal dollars. We have to do a 25% match on that, puts us at $1 million plus project, whatever we decide, or y'all, as jurors, decide y'all want to consider doing. So that deadline for applications has been extended to January of 2022. So we'll work with y'all on that. The only thing I will encourage, and I'll stand behind this, is we need to encourage our citizens to get their vaccinations. A lot of people have drawn the line on some of that stuff, but we need to try our best to encourage people to do that. I did find out this weekend that like our local Walgreens offers all 3 brands, so you can go there and get whatever you want. Other than that, any other questions? Yes, sir.
You said that thermometer with the alarm on it was set for 99.1?
Yes, sir.
Isn't that kind of low? Aren't most places hollering 100.4? Don't the schools even wait till 100.4?
That's what these are set at, so I don't know, TJ.
So will they not let you in if it's over 99.1? Once that goes off?
Well, I mean, we'll see what it reads. It may be 101, 102, so we'll see the temperature reading as well when the audible alarm goes off.
We don't have the ability to change it.
Yeah.
The thermometer, we don't have the ability to change it. That's just what it's
That's
set
just
at.
what it said at. Wow. Okay.
Thank you, Kip. All right, Ms. Marcy Nelson with the library.
So the main things are, like Laura said, we did obtain $47,000 and a little bit of change from the state library's trickle down from ARPA. And so that's specifically going to be used for public service access to internet and that type of technology. So we're looking at completely replacing all of our public service access units in the library, something to the tune of 50 units, 50 computers. And just to give you an idea about how long the lifespan of a public service computer is, we do really, really well to get 7 to 8 years out of them because they're so heavily utilized. And so that would be good for us because with some good TLC, we hope that it would get us through roughly the next 7 to 8 years. So we're working on that. We did work, reached out to Brent at the Parish IT to get us a couple of quotes on what 50 units would cost us. And right now, my lowest quote is something to the tune of like $35,000. So that leaves us a little bit of money to do some other public access internet services. Right now, we do offer 20 hotspot units for checkout. We're looking into getting, those are through T-Mobile. We're looking into getting maybe 20 more through another service so that we can offer to more people who maybe the T-Mobile doesn't work at their home. But we're working on all that, getting quotes. We have to have those funds spent by December 31st. And do a little bit of paperwork with that. But we're working on that. We just wrapped up summer reading, and we had over 600 people participate. I just looked at the statistics today, and one of our top readers in the children's department read something to the tune of like 7,200 pages this summer, so they worked really, really hard. So that, I thought that was really, really awesome numbers considering all the challenges we faced going into this summer and then coming out of it as well. 600 is nothing to scoff at. Other than that, Laura came to our board meeting this past month and gave me a contact to the legislative auditor's office, and they are on the calendar for September 22nd and 23rd. That's a Wednesday and Thursday. They'll be utilizing the event center to do their best practices for small governments workshops. If none of you have been to that, I went to it in 2018. I went to level 1 and level 2. I highly recommend it. It'd be great for anybody who works in small government to kind of get an update from the legislative auditors on guidelines, best practices, and any concerns we have coming out of COVID, going into, whatever we're facing. And so they will be here in this facility. They're hoping to have 150 to 200 people apply to come to those workshops, and so we're giving them full use of the full facility so that we can make sure we can socially distance and observe any of those guidelines. Other than that, we're rocking and rolling, peddling books.
Thank you, Marcy. Mr. Pierce?
I don't have anything.
Great. All right. Did I miss anybody? Got it.
Okay, now administrative report.
Just a few things. Last week, we had a meeting, safety meeting with both our highway department and our solid waste department, along with a few other stragglers, to distribute some safety shirts. And Maurice, I'm going to have you stand up and be our model, or you'll be our Vanna White tonight. Very nice. High visibility shirts that feature our new logo on them, and these were purchased for the employees. We provided them 5 sets and to wear out on the job site. This helps them to be much safer out in the workplace. Also helps us to look a little more professional out on the job site. And so they were very appreciative, and I think it just helps kind of raise our bar a little bit. And so I'm going to express my appreciation to Mr. Hunt for that suggestion, and I think it was a good one. Our insurance company likes the idea a lot, so much that they purchased catered lunch from Bing Christmas for our employees for our meeting, and so we want to tell the Lincoln Agency our appreciation for providing that. An update on our work order system as we continue to make sure it's fully implemented across all departments. I just want to tell you how proud I am of our employees of embracing this change. For the most part, they have done a great job. For those that have gotten a tablet and have been inputting all their data, it's really helped us to be able to gather a lot of information. And that's the main point, is to make sure our workflows are working smoothly, but also gathering metrics that we're going to need as we go into this budgeting season. Of course, we won't have a year's worth of data to work from, but we are going to have a good bit that we can use to kind of make some budget decisions this fall. And so that'll be very useful. We interviewed this afternoon for our financial manager position. We interviewed 2 very qualified candidates. I was very pleased that we had the 2 candidates that we did, and we'll be making a decision as to who the selected candidate will be in the next day or so. And as soon as that selection is made and the offer is extended and accepted, we'll let you know who that candidate, who that person is. Also, as a final reminder, I believe that Devin has reached out to you for your bios. On the new website, there's going to be a juror page, as she has told you. It's going to have your beautiful photos on it, along with a little bit about you and an outline of your district. And so we need to get those in as soon as possible so we can get them to the website folks. And if we don't get yours, we're going to make it up. So
we get to pick out the picture we want?
Well, it's the one you had taken tonight.
Well, it says more than one.
Well, he's going to pick out the good one. So make sure you get your bios in if you haven't done so.
I got a question on what would be the possibility like a group picture? Some of y'all may not want one. I enjoy photos and things for the group, this group right here that we took. What do we go about doing if I wanted a photo of the group?
I'm sure Mr. Beasley would be glad to sell you one.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we can work.
So yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Sure.
Sorry. You can also contact Mr. Beasley if you want a copy of your headshot as well.
Who?
Mr. Beasley.
Oh, you don't have any update on the county market building as far as your vacancies?
No, we still have the one space that is still available. That's that Cricket Wireless space. I've had several people tour the space, look through it, but I have not had anyone that has signed a lease and written a check yet. I do have someone that has is supposed to be by. He has come by and got a copy of the lease to review. He was getting his insurance in place and says he wants it, but I don't have a check in hand yet. So, and then we had another inquiry today for another business, but no bites, solid bites yet.
Okay. Any questions, any comments, other comments? Okay, any public comments? If there's no public comments, the meeting is adjourned.